welcome to the latest edition of the Purple Sofa podcast. I'm Sophie and this week we're joined by a few guests on the podcast. So we have Ellis, Lisa Powell and Josh Murphy, as well as Andy, who is a regular on the podcast. And this week we're going to be talking about careers. So over to you, Andy.
Yeah, I suppose first of all, there wasn't room for us all on the Purple Sofa, was there?
No, we have had a change of location.
Hence the boardroom table today. So yeah, we're going to talk about how we all got into accountancy. I think we've all taken very sort of different routes, or certainly some of us have. I think we're going to start with me because I've been in accountancy the longest. My first day was actually the 2nd of July 1990, and it sort of sticks in the memory because it was the day after England played Cameroon in the 1990 World Cup. They played them on a Sunday night, and I remember going to the pub and thinking, how many beers is that acceptable to have when you're starting a new job the following day? So I took it really steady. England won, so I was celebrating, but I did everything in moderation. And actually I had nothing to worry about because the next day everyone was pissed. You know, everyone had been out all day watching England, celebrating, etc. So I was the most sober, I think.
Did you make it in on time on your first day?
Oh yeah, I was going to be early on the first day.
Yeah.
Probably half an hour early, maybe a little bit too much. But in terms of how I got into accountancy, didn't really have a clue what I wanted to do. I did my A-levels. I knew university wasn't really for me, so I wanted to get a job, probably an apprenticeship, but what to do, I really didn't have a clue. I knew I wanted to sit at a desk. I knew I wanted to use my brain rather than my hands. So I just sent my CV into loads of random businesses that I'd heard of. I'd found in the colour pages. Don't think the colour pages even exists anymore. This was before the days of the internet, so there was no sort of online research available. So I just wrote to pretty much every solicitors, estate agents, accountants, random other businesses that I thought there might be some desk jobs in. Heard back for a few of them, got interviews with I think one firm of accountants and banks as well. I applied to all the banks. I'd actually been on work experience at Barclays, which I really enjoyed, and I thought there might be a job opportunity on the back of that, but it was actually a girl that got the job ahead of me. I think the reason she got the job rather than me is because she turned up to work experience with a notebook, and she was like making notes and stuff, whereas I didn't. So I think we're both.
Maybe a lesson to be learned.
But I think we're both pretty good, but because she just looked a little bit more organised and efficient than me, I think that's why she got the job maybe. So I was offered two jobs in the end, one in accountancy and one in with National Building Society, and I really didn't know which one to take. I didn't know anybody that worked in accountants, didn't know anybody that worked in a bank or a building society, so I was almost on the verge of just tossing a coin, because I liked all the people that interviewed me. Both organisations looked really good, although obviously the building society was a much larger organisation than the accountants. So I was on the verge of flipping a coin, but then, and this sounds really bad, but I realised that if I took the building society job, I'd have to go on a 1 week induction course, which was out of town, and it clashed with the whole city game. So it meant I wouldn't. I know it sounds ridiculous. It meant I wouldn't have been able to go to Sheffield United away if I'd taken the building society job. So I thought, well, that's as good a way as any of picking you know, going to accountancy, it means I can go to Sheffield United away.
You remember the game as well?
Yeah. If I go into accountancy, I can go to Sheffield United away. If I go into the building society career, I won't be able to go. So let's use that as the basis for deciding your career path. So it's pretty much the same as tossing a coin, but I got to go to see Hull City lose at Sheffield United. And that's how that's how I ended up in accountancy. And I think, well, I know that I made the right decision.
No regrets.
No regrets. I definitely think accountancy is a more exciting, interesting, varied career than banking, stroke, building society. So yeah, I suppose thank you Hull City for sending me down the path I've been on.
Hull City's got a lot to answer for.
They have. Yeah. I mean, I don't wonder if I wasn't into football and I didn't support Hull City and I had chosen the building society route, I wonder what I'd be doing now.
Well, there's been a lot of changes in banking as well, hasn't there?
There has, yeah.
My owner in bank.
Yeah.
The Bank of Andy.
Yeah, I think that's highly unlikely. But yeah, I often think about sort of fate and where you'd be in life if you made one decision rather than the other, etc. But it's all turned out okay. Here I am sat doing the Purple Surfer podcast. So yeah, that's how I ended up in accountancy.
Thank you. So you joined accountancy next, Lisa?
Yeah,
So you had a different route into accountancy.
very different.
So what were you doing before you became an accountant?
I worked for a debt collection company and I dealt with people that basically had to pay the bills and we used to contact them in various ways to say, can you pay your bill please? I used to do I primarily did the debt collection for Sky Television. I was affectionately known as the Queen of Sky because I dealt with everything Sky.
This was in Hull, wasn't it?
It was in Hull, yeah. And the company I work for, they're still up good and they debt collect for pretty much every multinational company going. And it's a very lucrative business. But I was doing that, I've done bookkeeping and finance all my life, and I ended up in 2001, my husband went self-employed. He was a bricklayer, he became self-employed, so somebody had to do his tax return and do his bookkeeping, so that fell to me. So I went on various courses, learned how to do bookkeeping, did my A-level maths, and then decided for some unknown reason that it'd be a really good idea to go to university and do 3 years and get my degree in accountancy and go the full hog.
Which university did you go to?
I went to university in Hull, so that for the first time in my life in 2005, from being 16, for 3 years I didn't have a job. That's the only time since I've been 16 years old I've never had a job. And I must admit, loved Hull University, loved being there, loved doing the course. I could have quite happily spent the rest of my life just doing various other university courses and just, carried on, but I was told, get a job. You've had your 3 years, now get a job.
So how old were you when you were at uni?
I was 35 when I went to university. So I was pretty much probably one of the oldest accountancy students there.
A mature student?
Yes, I went in on the mature student, so I managed to get my degree. And I'm still friends with at least 10 of them that we meet up once a year, that we all went to university with.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Were they from Hull or?
No, from here, there and everywhere. I think the
Yeah.
eldest one lives in Nottingham way.
Yeah.
One of them, Hong Kong.
Right.
But he originates from HongOng, so he went
Yeah.
back home.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like Hong Kong's a bit further than Nottingham at least.
Well, yeah, he originates from Hong Kong, but he doesn't generally come. He either FaceTimes in for a bit, or we keep in touch with him via like Messenger and Facebook, because obviously it's a bit of a trek for him. But I absolutely, like I say, could quite happily stay at university. But then when I left university, I applied for jobs to finish my accountancy degree. So I applied to various ones to go on, obviously, like I said, it was a trainee programme, then it wasn't a apprenticeships. That was back in 2008, and I got offered 2 jobs. One was pure audit, and one was to train to be an accountant and an auditor. So I took the trainee accountant and auditor because I felt better to have the experience in both rather than just narrow yourself with one. And I finished my training because I think I was with one firm for about 9 months. Wasn't really getting a lot of training, so wasn't really learning anything other than my study. So I jumped ship. Apparently I was the oldest trainee that I ever had. Which was quite not unexpected given the fact of my age about then.
Yeah.
And so I jumped ship and I finished my training at the next accountancy firm I was with. I stayed with them for 13, 14 years. And it took me, the hardest thing I found about the training, because obviously it was difficult for me in some circumstances because I was like a working mother. So obviously it's real good fun when you're trying to study for an exam and you've got like a good 6 or 7, 8-year-olds in your living room practicing dance routines to loud music and you're in the dining room trying to study for an exam.
Because you went on to do your ACCA qualification, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So yeah, I did all of that by myself, and then I did the first part of my tax as well. After I'd done my ACCA, I had a few years off from studying because it's, you know, quite intense as you guys are learning. And you're bored, you know.
Yes, we do.
But then moved on to, I suddenly because I was where I was pretty much focused on tax. So on some whimsical idea, I thought, oh yeah, I'll do my tax exam. And then think, wow, that was really a stupid idea. The studying for a tax exam is immense. And the older you get, I found the harder it is. I must admit. I mean, if you're going to study, do it while you're doing your job, do it while you're doing fit.
And you're still doing your husband's bookkeeping and tax returns for him?
I still do all of that now to this day, and he has no clue, he has no idea what a tax return is, he has no idea what he earns, what he spends, nothing. He lives in complete ignorance of this. All he knows is, if he goes to the bank and he wants to go to the pub, he knows he can get some money on the bank and he can go to the pub. And he can ride his motorbike.
So do you think, if your husband hadn't become self-employed and needed a tax return, do you think he'd have ended up in accountancy?
I've always been in finance and bookkeeping and accounts, and whether I'd have gone on to study is another matter.
Yeah.
I think, and my other problem was where I was only part-time because of my daughter, and I was getting, as the part-timer who was working 2.5 days a week, I was getting pulled into big managers meetings by my manager to discuss like facts and figures and like basically because we run in cost centres which, you know, like little individual departments, and I was getting pulled into these big managers meetings to deal with all of this, and I'm like, I'm not getting paid for this, I'm going to study and get paid for this.
Yeah.
And that drove me to go, do you know what, I'm going to go, because I was just like, because obviously, you know, I'm sat there with like the little part-time help, you know, arguing with like all of these big managers going, no, Dad, no, we haven't done something. I've done the numbers, you know, and he was like, why am I doing this? I need to be getting paid for this. Because I was the one that was calculating it, I was the one that was working it out. Because the manager at the time, obviously, he was busy doing other things, and that wasn't really his forte. He was better at dealing with more of the other aspects of the department, so he kind of just leave that bit to me.
So you said you really enjoyed studying at university. I suppose one of the advantages of being in a career like accountancy is you're always learning, aren't you?
Yeah.
There's always new stuff to learn. You think you've learned everything, and then there's a budget and everything changes, and you've got to basically relearn everything, haven't you?
It's physically impossible to know everything for accountancy and tax, because you would never ever know it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I always check things before I even say to a client now, because the law, the rules, everything change that fluently, especially in tax, like I said, a budget. And then it's like, you've got to remember what tax year you're on, and then what's coming going forward to tell them, because everybody just gets boggled and mad. It's just a mad thing.
Yeah, 'cause you can give them a bit of advice, but if they don't act on that until after the 5th of April,
Yeah.
it might be different advice, might it?
Oh yeah, completely different.
Yeah.
Every time, because different rules start to come in, and different rules start to apply.
Yeah.
As we know very much coming forward with the inheritance tax rules.
Yeah.
They're all changed tenfold from the 5th of April.
Yeah. Which is a completely different podcast subject.
Yes.
We'll get you back on another podcast to talk about that.
So you were the next
Yeah.
to join the profession.
Yes.
How did you get into it?
So I wanted to be a solicitor because I thought I'd be really good at arguing. That was all I knew about it, and that was my only logic. But I went to a careers fair at South Hunsley where I was doing my GCSEs, and there was a gentleman called Graham from Kaplan, and he sold me an accountancy there and then. And I came away from it
Good
going,
old Graham.
that's what I'm going to do. That's the career I'm doing, and that was the only thing I based it on. So I had a family friend who was an accountant, so my mum messaged him saying, can my daughter talk to you? And I was, what do you do? I've decided that's what I want to do, but what do you actually do? But he worked in industry rather than practice, so it was a little bit different.
You will have also had the benefit of the internet, weren't you? Unlike
Yes,
me.
yeah. So then I picked my A-levels to suit accountancy. So I did A-level maths, business and economics, and I hated A-level maths. And I wish I picked something I actually enjoyed, because I did not enjoy it in the slightest. And then around the March time, I was applying for different jobs, and I got an interview with 360.
Who were just, at that time, were just across the road from South Hunsley.
Yes, and I lived in Brough, so it was very local. So my dad drove me to the interview. We had to ring reception and find out where our service offices were, because they were located down that driveway, so it was a little bit harder to find.
Nobody could ever find
No.
our offices in Melton.
And my dad sat in the car and waited for me while I had my interview. And then as a teenager, I didn't have my own email address, or what I did was some cheesy MSN email address. So I used my parents' email address on my interviews and on my CVs. And I had my interview with you, and you showed me around the offices, and then...
Which didn't take long.
No.
Very small.
Yes. And then I was at school at sixth form one day, and my mum rang me, and because it was a family email address, she said, oh my God, they've responded to you. Do you want me to open it? So she opened it. And
She'd already opened it.
probably. So she opened it and told me on the phone while I was at sixth form. And it comes up every year on my Facebook memories, because Facebook was new out at that point. So everyone was putting things on their statuses, and it's like, just been offered my first job. And it comes up every year as a memory. And then I started on the 4th of July 2011.
Had England played the night before?
I have no idea, in all honesty. But I remember turning up for reception and waiting in reception, and because we were in the back building at the time. So I remember following you down the corridor, trying to keep up while we went across to the back building and started all my inductions. And I think it was maybe day 2, I had my first headshot, and it's just gone from there.
You were our first apprentice?
Yeah, first of many.
Yeah.
So I did my AAT to start with as an apprenticeship, and then there wasn't the level 7 apprenticeships and higher level apprenticeships at the time, so the rest of my training was on a training agreement, probably similar to what you did, Lisa. So I did ACCA, and then I asked if I could do ACA on top of that.
So yeah, so you getting into accountancy was a little bit more down to research and
That was Graham.
the careers event at Hunsley, etc.
Yeah, so at the time, Hunsley and a lot of the schools were sort of pushing university. Apprenticeships weren't as popular as they were then. A lot of them were more trade apprenticeships, not necessarily accountancy, law, etc. So my business teacher at the time wanted me to go to university, but it just wasn't for me. so my parents actually had to go into school and explain that she wants to do an apprenticeship. But there's a lot more resources and things out there now, which is really good.
Okay. So, you were next.
Yeah. I mean, well, getting into accountancy has been a bit of an experience for me. So I started life out of school. I went to university to do chemistry at Newcastle, having absolutely no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So I'd actually had a gap year out of school while I decided what I wanted to do at uni.
I bet you had a good time in Newcastle, didn't you?
Newcastle was, yeah, it's a lot of studying after hours was definitely done in the bars and nightclubs of Newcastle.
Learning life skills.
Yeah, definitely learning life skills. But that's what I would say about university though, is it's not just about the course. Like you do like learn so much outside of it, like if you compare it to an apprenticeship. Like, but then when you come into the world, you think, I'm at uni, I've got everything. It's like you realise you absolutely know nothing about how to actually work and things like that. So straight for it to did 3 years at doing chemistry at uni, and then ended up doing my teaching qualification. So technically I'm a qualified teacher, so I've got my qualified teacher status.
So what did you think about becoming a chemistry teacher?
Yeah, so I did secondary school chemistry. I actually, while I was doing it, I pivoted into physics rather than chemistry. So I would have done physics at uni because I was I've always been sort of scientifically and mathematically brained. Like my mum always tells the story of how whenever I came home from preschool, I'd have a page of sums rather than the drawings that you have, because I'm the least artistic person you've ever met. But yeah, so then sort of did secondary science, and like how teachers stick at it and what they have to go through is unbelievable. It took a mental toll on me, so I had to step out of it. Mentally, my mental health just wasn't there for it. So then ended up in a client-based sort of customer service role. Did that for 3 years.
Is this back in Hull?
Yeah, this is back in Hull, sort of in Willoughby. It's for a print company, and it was everything that I enjoyed. Sort of because I must have got it from Newcastle. Yeah, I'm quite a social person, so it was nice interacting with people and sort of doing things like that. So I really enjoyed it, doing that sort of stuff. And then I started slowly getting into sort of, because a lot of what I was doing there was sort of sending, getting the invoices for the clients, not sending the invoices to clients, but sort of working out, dealing with like the purchasing quotation teams and all of that. And so the figures and the money, like invoices, were sort of building. And then the black cloud of COVID hit, and I was furloughed from day one. I had about 2 months where I was like, this is great, this is brilliant, 2 months holiday.
It was nice weather at that point as well, wasn't it?
Really, really nice weather. And then it hit me, and I went, I need to find something that I enjoy that's going to make me needed. And so I was looking around, a bit like Sophie, sort of I looked into being a lawyer, things like that. I had a chat with sort of my best friend's dad. He's sort of one of the people that I go to whenever I need advice, and he sort of was discussing it. And his wife's a qualified accountant, and they sort of said, well, have you thought about that? And like the more I thought about it, I thought, I'll see what it's like. I'll have a look into it, researched it. I went out. What I'll do is I'll do my level 2 AAT and see how I like it. Opened that book, did that first exam, never looked back. And in the December, I got my first accountancy job, which was working for a timber merchant, and it was very much it was a family friend's business, and they'd had someone just leave out of the blue, and they needed help. And it was sort of like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. you give us a hand on the short term and we'll give you that experience. Because I applied to an accountancy firm, and again, like this was still in COVID, and they got through to the final interview, and the feedback I got from the last one was they didn't want to take a chance on me because I didn't have any accountancy knowledge background, and they'd rather have someone that had sort of had that accountancy, because I was doing my AAT at this point, but it was a ACCA one, and it was just that step up, which fair enough. So in the December I started at this timber merchant, then ended up at another builder's merchant, and I thought I want to get into practice mainly because I don't want to be pigeonholed into an industry that I don't like. Whereas practice, I can see all the different ones, and sort of depending where I'm at in the future, I can sort of, if I want to move to industry, sort of 5 6 years down the line, once I'm sort of fully qualified, I'd rather be able to do that into an industry that I like, because I think Lisa will probably be able to agree with me. If you're stuck in an industry you're not exactly enjoying, industry accounting is very monotonous because you're doing the same things, whereas practice is a lot more varied, a lot more fun, and it's bringing back that client side stuff that I really like.
So you self-studied your AAT yourself, didn't you?
So self-studied my full AAT, got that qualified, and yeah, sort of the job I got here was, I think working in industry sort of helped in my favour getting the job here, because it was sort of almost a hybrid, initially it was hybrid, doing 360's internal stuff and a chance to do the practice, and then I moved more into the practice side and sort of never wanted to go back really.
And now you're almost halfway through your ACCA.
Over halfway through.
Yeah.
Yeah, a year and a bit, 5 exams left out of the 13.
Not that you counted.
Not that I'm counting.
So I suppose similar to Lisa, you've gone down the sort of career change path rather than falling into it like I did.
Yeah, it all stemmed from literally at 18 having absolutely no idea what I wanted to do with myself.
It's hard to know.
Yeah.
It's hard for them to expect people at 17, for every 17, 18-year-old to know what they want to do for potentially a career for the rest of their lives.
Because not all 18-year-olds have bumped into a Graham from Kaplan, have they?
No. Or have a husband that needs bookkeeping doing.
Yeah.
So Ellis, you were the most recent to enter the accounting profession, but also to enter 360 as well. So you joined us in our summer 2024 apprentice intake. So how did you hear about accountancy? What got you to applying to be an accountant?
Well, about this time last year, I had, again, a common theme. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had a rough idea, but not much. But then Andy was doing talks at my school at Hunsley, and I thought I'd tell it to him. I wasn't even going to do what I did in the end. And I found it more interesting than I thought it would be. So
that was the employer-led program.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And so I just kept it in the back of my mind. I think I went to another one a few months later, and then 360 had the careers events, and I thought I'd attend that, see how it goes, and I learned even more, and I found it really even more interesting. So I guess it went from there.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
We've got the careers event coming up in February. Do you want to explain a little bit about how the careers event works, what sort of things you learn? We had different sort of stations, didn't we?
Yeah. In this room, it was you explaining the history of 360, a wonderful presentation. that kept overrunning. I kept getting into trouble because it was taking too long.
Yeah, we did have somebody at the door sort of pointing at their watch periodically saying, come on, they've got other stations to move around.
And then there was, I think there was a quiz downstairs, and a few other things, and I did another quiz on what type of accountant I'd be best, I think it was. It's just little stuff like that. I quite like to spoke with some of the other accountants that work here to get a better insight into what I'd expect if I joined.
Yeah.
I think there was a station about some of the technology that we use as well, wasn't there?
Yes,
There was
there was,
like
yeah.
a Zero and a Dex demo.
So it was Olivia and Ben who was our apprentice from the intake the summer before, who was doing the quiz on what sort of accountant would you be, because there are a lot of different aspects to it. But you're going to be attending our careers event this year, aren't you, as our newest summer apprentice?
We've actually, quite a few of our apprentices over the years have discovered 360 and discovered accountancy at the employer-led events that South Londonsley do. I remember, probably before your time, but I remember one presentation that I did, I was sort of umming and ahhing about asking at the start of the meeting how many people were interested in accountancy, and then at the end seeing if it had increased. So there's obviously a massive risk there, but I thought I'd just go for it. So at the start of the meeting I said, right, so just out of interest, how many of you are genuinely really interested in accountancy? And one person put their hand up, and there was about 10 people in the room. So I was thinking, oh, surely by the end of this I could increase it from 1, even if they lie, you know, just because they feel sorry for me. So I did the presentation. I thought, oh, that's gone really well. They'll have been wowed by that. So at the end, I decided to go for it. I said, so let's just do another little hand check. How many of you are interested in accountancy now? And the same person put it out, nobody else did. But I suppose on the plus side, it didn't reduce from 1 to 0, because that would have just destroyed me. So since then, I haven't had the courage to do the same exercise, but maybe one day. So yeah, I think a very varied way into accountancy. A little bit, some through luck, some through careful research and planning, etc. And others that have just sort of developed an interest in it over the years as they've gone down different career paths.
And some of it just due to Hull City's fixture list.
Yeah.
in that football year.
Yeah, thank you, Hull City.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us. As Andy said, we have our careers event in February. All the details are on our socials. And if we can be of any help, if anyone's got any career questions or would like to attend the events, please contact us at help@360accountants.co.uk.
Or if you're watching on Dave, we had our careers event.